Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So, one more video today. This one is being inspired by some of the responses to things I've said lately against the use of violence and protests. I keep on getting responses from different people that actually advocate violence. Don't listen to anyone that is advocating violence. Think about this. If people on the left are using violence, how are you any different from the people on the right that are using violence, destroying things, looting, injuring people? If you lost your job because, and your income, because your place of employment was destroyed by rioters, I'm not going to call them protesters. Protesters are protesters. Rioters and looters are rioters and looters. They are opportunists. They are not trying to achieve anything. Period. All they are trying to achieve is violence and looting and destruction. That's all they really want to do. If you lost your job, your employment, your income because of rioters, would you care whether it was from right-wing rioters or left-wing rioters? Is there a difference? If your family was injured, or you were injured, or your family was killed because of, arson committed by a rioter, is it okay? Does it make a difference whether the rioter was right-wing or left-wing? So, other things to consider about with the use of violence. When does it stop? At what point does the violence stop? If the right and the left and the establishment are all using violence, at what point does the violence end? Well, I know some people are going to say, well, when we win. Well, first of all, who's we? And, who decides what is winning? Again, where is the stopping point? Who decides where the stopping point is? It's completely, anti-productive. It's counterproductive to use violence to achieve things. You set your community back, you set your cause back, you give your cause a black eye. No, I'm, absolutely, I'm very much against the violence being used by police. In some ways, I kind of wish that the National Guard would step in and take the side of the people and just tell the police, no, you're not doing this. I can hope for that. I can dream about that. Again, I've pointed out, National Guard members are members of the communities where they are called to active service. So the people that they are looking at, and are their friends, their neighbors, their relatives, their co-workers. So, we can always hope that, National Guard members would take the side of, the people. I wouldn't want to risk it. I'm not in favor of martial law in any fashion. But I've been very much in favor of, rather than these massive protests, I've said it for a long time, writing, calling, tweeting your elected officials, your media, independent media, social media, everything, to stand against violence by any side. We need to form coalitions that actually have defined demands. You look at the Yellow Vest movement, and it's a long list of demands, but they've got specific demands. No riot, no protest ever does any good if you don't say what your demands are. If you're just protesting against something, that doesn't work. You have to be protesting in support of something, such as I've mentioned a number of times, civilian oversight committees of police departments with the power to indict. That would be one of our best bets for, addressing police violence. Absolute demands for police to be wearing body cameras, and if those cameras get turned off anytime during their shift, then there is an inquiry, there is an investigation, there is personnel action taken against that officer, especially if it happens repeatedly, because that's where you got dirty cops. Do I think all police are bad? No. Do I think that all of the ones that don't speak up don't speak up because they don't want to? Well, look, if some of these officers are willing to, steal, kill, civilians, well, what are they willing to do to a fellow officer that turns them in? What happens, we know that officers that go to internal affairs wind up having a mark put on them by other officers. This needs to be addressed, and that civilian oversight committee could address such issues as that. Give the officers an anonymous source and method where they can, submit information about dirty officers. But, the cameras, the oversight committees, reforming the entire process so that it's not all handled by in departments offices, because the corruption goes all the way to the top. We know this. Look at the response in Minneapolis. Look at the responses over and over. These police aren't just tear gassing people and beating people without orders coming from above. They're not making these decisions randomly. Someone is telling, from higher up, is telling them to do this. Yes, I do believe that most of our police departments are primarily corrupt and primarily violent. So it's up to us to change this, but we're not going to change it with violence. They've got more weapons. They can bring in the National Guard. They can bring in the military. They have an endless supply of weapons, armor, drones. There's no way, unless every person in a city rose up all at once, and then what? Do we kill the police? Do we lock them away? What is the outcome? What is the intended outcome? So all this stuff about using violence, there is no winning side when you start using violence. It doesn't matter what somebody tells you. And, they say, well, riots, and violence have been involved in, social changes, through the years. But after the violence is done, then it has to result in changes in our structure and changes in legislation and our governmental structure, our even societal structures. This is how we make change, by talking about it, by defining the changes that we want. We don't make any positive change by destruction and negative behavior that injures our communities, our neighbors, our friends, our relatives, because that's who's getting hurt. So, share this video. Talk about these subjects. If somebody is trying to incite you to even support violence, shut them down. Shut them up. Ask them the questions such as, and when does the violence stop? What is the end goal? Who defines the end goal? Ask them those questions. They will not have answers. Any answers that they offer you are going to be nothing but diversions. It's just doublespeak. It's gobbledygook. It doesn't mean anything. They're just trying to get you to go along with them and support violence. And trust me, there are a lot of right-wing infiltrators in leftist groups that are trying to do this to make the left look bad. So pay attention to what's going on. All right, so again, share this video. Discuss these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate $1 a month to help me expand the channel. Yep. These things have to be discussed in a rational manner. It's got to be more than just clickbait. All right? So that's it for today. I hope you all have a good evening.